Tonight we are sitting down with Sydney Kysar, a sophomore digital media student and a former employee of Warner Brothers. Okay, thank you very much for being with us tonight, Sydney.
Hi.
The first thing I want to ask you about is your experience with video restoration for Warner Brothers. How did you become involved with that process?
Well, I was looking for a job right out when I finished my senior year of high school. I was just turned 18, and I was talking with one of my friends, Eric, and he said that they were looking for people who had experience with Photoshop and knew how to do frame-by-frame Photoshop editing. And I was like, sure, I'll give them my resume, see if I can do it. And then it was for this small company called Craigman Digital, and I knew nothing about it. I just knew that Eric worked with film, and that's what he did for a living, and sound and things like that.
Right.
And I walked in for my interview the first day, and then I walked to Craigman Digital, and then I saw that it was literally Warner Brothers that I was walking into, and I was like, oh geez, this is a very big company that I'm going to be working for. So I think that was a fun experience, because like even though I was working for a branch of Warner Brothers that was really small, I was still a part of like this really big company, and it was really fun. Yeah.
What exactly is the process of restoring film in the manner that you did so?
So what I did is that I just took frames, so like 24 frames per second. I just broke them down in Photoshop, and then I edited each frame one by one. So like if a camera was wobbly, or like two cameras weren't like communicating well together, or if there was fuzz or like static or something that just you couldn't really see the film, I had to like scrub it all down and then make it so that it looked like a good piece of film. Yeah.
Were the projects that you were working on largely older films, documentaries? What kind of work did you do?
Mostly stuff that was like 70s, 80s, 1970s, 1980s. Not too old, but it was basically just cameras that were malfunctioning, so the film wasn't really that great, and we had to make it look like the film was pretty good. So yeah, that was more the time frame I was doing. Yeah.
How many hours would you spend typically in one session?
Well, I would get there around 10, and then I would leave like around 4 or 5, so that would be 6 hours,
yeah,
6
yeah.
hours, 7 hours, and then I was there Monday through Friday. Yeah.
Did you find the work tedious or relaxing?
I always listen to podcasts and music, so even though it could get tedious, I always had a fun time like listening to something fun, and that helped me focus. So yeah, so even though some people might find it extremely tedious, I thought it was like just kind of relaxing, and it was a fun thing to do. Yeah.
Right. Was there anything in particular that you worked on that you were proud to say that you had a hand in restoring?
Yeah, there was this one set of footage that we had that I was given to restore, and it was really, really bad. It like there was chrome. It just looked like neon, and like it hurt your eyes when you watched it. And then by the end of the time that I finished restoring it, like it looked like a clean cut video. And then I don't know. I just was like I was really proud.
It seems like a very satisfying process.
Being able to see like the before and after. So like even though you'll show someone like the after, and then it like maybe won't look perfect, and then you'll see it compared to the before, and you're like, that's not even viewable.
Right.
So it's a completely different transformation once you're finished with it.
And restoration is a very important process, because there is a lot of cultural history that could be lost with this degrading film. So it's excellent work to be a part of. You also have experience painting murals. The first thing I want to ask you is how you fell into art in the first place. What drew you to art as a medium of expression?
I always did art growing up. I just like drew and painted and had fun growing up. And then in high school, I started taking it more seriously and like actually doing more projects and trying to go outside of school and outside of just doing what I want at home, like doing volunteering things or going to museums or interacting with people and trying to like open up my viewpoint to different artists and things like that. And growing up, I was always very, like, even though I took it more seriously in high school, I was always, like, I had my sketchbook when I was, like, in middle school where I would, like, just draw circles and learn how to draw the perfect circle, or like I would focus specifically on animals or specifically on like trying to always practice and always getting better. And then I fell into this volunteer organization called Access Books, and that was in 10th grade, I believe. And I just went for once. I thought it was just going to be one time, and they gave me like a whole set of paints and paintbrushes, and they're like, here's a wall, paint a mural. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll this.
Was that the only direction they gave you in terms of what they wanted?
They said they wanted it to be like a children's book, so I chose the Hungry Caterpillar. So me and like 2 other volunteers, we just painted the Hungry Caterpillar onto a wall of an elementary school library. And then I loved it so much, I kept going back. I was like, hey, when's the next time you guys are doing this? And then I did over 400 hours of volunteer work, and then they put me on as an artist in residence as when their artist had to go, she had a kid, so I became the artist in residence that was in charge of volunteers for a year.
Wow.
While she was on leave. And yet that was an amazing experience, yeah.
What did you glean from your experience shadowing her and learning from her in terms of?
Well, her name is Beatrice, and she's like an amazing painter, and I loved just being able to like ask her questions like, hey, how do you, because it's one thing to paint like on a frame and you have like as much time as you want,
right?
But if you only have like 4 hours and you have to paint like 2 entire rooms where it's like head to floor, and then it's for kids who are going to be seeing this every single day, and it's like you want it to be a place where they want to go to and to read. And I think just trying to like interact with librarians and trying to see what they want, and then like talking with, because I'm teaching elementary school kids how to paint because they're painting with me. So like I'm trying to like 8-9-year-olds. I'm like, hey, you want to help me paint? Like, this is how you mix colors. Like, this is how you use a paintbrush. Some of them have never held a paintbrush before, and I'm trying to get them to paint giant murals. And that was like really fulfilling. It's because it's their school, and then they're able to paint for their own school and see like, oh, hey mom, like I painted this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's wonderful. Was it difficult to manage the students in executing the painting while fulfilling what the task was in the first place too at the same time?
Sometimes it got a little hard. Like there was like time crunches where like we only had, like we got there at 8, like the volunteers got there at 8, and we had to like be out there by noon. And we were worried about like time. There's always, I don't know, there was always this feeling I had every single time I painted a mural. I'm like, oh, this is gonna go bad, or oh, we're not gonna finish. And then we always finished, but there's always that feeling like we're not gonna get done. Something's not gonna look right. We're gonna have to like do something over again. And trying to always look out for those things and making sure that the process goes smoothly is kind of, it was a very good learning lesson for me, like doing this throughout high school, is doing time management and seeing like what you can do in that time and what's reasonable, but also being able to be creative and asking the volunteers, hey, what can you do? Because some of them turn out to be really amazing artists. Even if they're just in elementary school, they can do amazing things. Yeah.
Was it more of a high pressure environment than working with you said it was restoring film, you could relax, you could move at a slower pace, time crunch wasn't as intense. Was this a little bit more of a high pressure situation for you?
I wouldn't say it was like high pressure. It was always like kind of a happy, like we always had lunch together and we kind of relaxed, but yeah, there always was the time crunch, like, oh, we have to finish. We have to make sure that this is done by today because we only have one day to do this. Because
on paper, I would think it would be more pressure to, work for a company like Warner Brothers than paint with elementary school students. However, given the time restraints, I could see it could be pretty stressful.
I think for working for Kirkman Digital and Warner Brothers, the time crunch, it was all like, it was on your own time. Like, so it was all like, oh, if I don't get this done, this is on me. But like if I was working for Access Books, like there's an entire elementary school full of kids where if I don't finish this day, like they're all gonna be like, oh, like disappointed, and they're all gonna be like, this is like I was looking for this to be done today, and we couldn't get it done. So I feel like I'd be disappointing the elementary school kids. And like, I don't know, they're very judgmental. So I don't know.
Did you receive any points of criticism in your art from the elementary school students?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, they were sometimes, if they didn't like something, they'd be like, I don't like that. And then we would change it and it would be fine. But they're very honest about, usually they would get really excited. Like we did like an ocean theme for one library. And they're like, oh my god, it's an octopus. And then they would like run around trying to like name all the animals. Or like this other time we did it all based off of the where the wild things are. Mm-hmm. So like we got to do all the monsters and things like that, and it was really fun to see like the kids like interacting with the art and wanting to be in that space and wanting to read books. I don't know. Shout out to Access Books, because we don't get in California, we don't get funding for public school libraries, so they like collect books and they make sure that elementary school kids who don't have funding to buy new books, they get new books, because sometimes these schools, they don't have new books since before like 1950.
Wow.
So I don't know. I think it's an amazing organization. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any major influences as an artist? Are there any major artist figures that have influenced your work in the past?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of names specifically, but I'm horrible at names.
That's okay.
But really me, what I like, I'd have to say Vincent van Gogh, being basic, but because I don't know, I went to Amsterdam last year, and I don't know, just him, and like, I don't know, it's just, I get so inspired when I look at his pieces and I read works about him specifically, and his art style, and going from before him, the Impressionists. That's how I got into art. Like the Impressionist movement was the first movement. I think I was 10, and I got a book about Impressionism, and I like tried to copy the work into my own drawings, and I would try to like recreate those things. I remember like being extremely fascinated by all those things, and I think Impressionism, and then also I would get, my mom's a doctor, so she would have a lot of like books about the body and books about like describing like the human brain, or the like detailing like the skeletal system. And when I was really little, I would always copy and when I was really little, I would trace them, and then I would start to like copy things out of the book. And so I was really fascinated about copying diagrams and making things like recreating things that in real life. And I think that really impacted my art too.
How did your art develop during your time studying in Florence for a year, your freshman year of college?
I think being surrounded by art, for one, of course that's going to change the way I think about art specifically, because I knew nothing about art history before going to Florence. I took 2 art history classes there. So I think being surrounded that heavily, being like drenched in art all the time, and being able to just go out with my sketchbook and like sketch statues and the piazzas and going like that, I think that really helped me see like a direction I can go in the future, and see that I can make amazing works of art. I don't have to like limit myself to doing really small things. I can go out and I can be big, I think. Yeah.
Were you able to get any experience in the realm of digital media art while you were abroad?
Yeah, I took a few courses, and the digital media department there, even though it's really small, it was like, I loved the teachers there, especially Paolo. He was one of the teachers, and I don't know, being there and I took like a graphic design course with him, and like he would have us like create things, and then like he would have us like print it out and submit it to be in an art fair that would show for like Piazza San Lorenzo. Like it would be like shown where tourists would walk, and even though it was like digital stuff, like we can show off our like our photography or our paintings or our or our digital media stuff, and it would be shown like where people would see it, and so we would feel like real artists.
It sounds like a very validating experience as a young artist.
Yeah, being able to like present your work to other people I think is one of the most validating things you can do, instead of just putting it in your Google Docs folder and having it never see the light of day.
Was that the Art is in the Square presentation? What specific works of yours were presented in that?
I had a photography piece. I took photos of the museum La Pecola, of like rocks and gems and things like that, and they also have an anatomical section, right? Yeah. So did that kind of fulfill some of your early childhood interests sketching? Yeah, it was a little, when I went in there, like, you have to get, like, a private tour, like, you can't go in there by yourself, and it's very, like, interesting to see, because it's all sculpture. None of it's real human, like, bodies, but it looks real, so it was a fascinating exhibit to look at.
They're made of wax, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just the preservation that they've done. Like, if someone did, like, a wax, and I don't know how they make it look the same after
it's
so
incredible.
Many years.
Did you sketch anything while you were in there?
Because it was like we were walking and we have to keep walking. So I took a lot of photos that I ended up later sketching, but not while I was there specifically. Yeah.
Very, very cool. And in addition to the photos, what else was presented in the Art is in the Square?
One piece I did for graphic design. It was just a digital drawing of Prince that I did for a piece in his class. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What experience have you had thus far in the realm of stop-motion animation?
In stop-motion animation, when I was in high school, I did a film by myself. It was an assignment for school, but then I kind of took it outside of that realm. It was like a fortune cookie assignment, and so we took a fortune cookie, and then there was a word inside that fortune cookie, and we had to do a project based off of it, and my word was frazzle. So I looked into how you can take things apart and how things can be frazzled in art, and so I looked into early film and then stop motion animation, and through that I decided I wanted to create my own stop motion animation, and so I did cutouts. So I had a camera that was mounted over just like a paper, and then I took little cutouts, and then I made all the different shapes and stuff, all the different frames that I wanted, and then I moved them throughout, and then that was my first animation I ever did. Yeah.
Are you working on anything in the realm of animation currently? Right
now I'm doing some stop motion animation for my sculpture class, mostly independently. I'm doing like little clay things, but I think we're going to be doing something bigger later in the semester, which I'm excited for. Yeah.
How do you generally come up with a narrative to work with in the medium of stop motion?
I think you just have to go for it and experiment, because if you're just kind of in your sketchbook all the time, it's like, I like making storyboards and doing things like that, but if I'm not like physically like having the stuff tangibly in front of me, it's difficult for me to see the art become alive. So like I'll be making maybe a claymation of like, maybe I was sculpting a broccoli, and I was making a claymation based off of this broccoli, and just like taking footage of me while I'm making that broccoli, and then doing things with that and just going it as it goes along and making it very fluid, I think makes the art and the video more natural. So although I do have like frames and specifically what I want to do, but when I'm actually in the studios, I like it to make it as natural as possible.
So the story and the message kind of finds itself as you're working with the...
Yeah.
Very, very cool. You also mentioned that you had some experience as a child with television shows.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
could elaborate on that a little bit.
When I was little, a family friend, Larry Swerdlove, he was the creator of, one of the creators of like kids animation shows like Clifford the Big Red Dog, and he did this other animation. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was this like little this show about this family of pigs, and I was they filmed me when I was really little for the animators to look at my movement and things like that, for the animators so they could see like real life when they're creating the animation. So they filmed me like dancing and having fun and doing things like that, and I think I also they put like this stickers and things, and then
The stop motion.
the stop motion trackers, yeah. So that was fun. I think that was my first ever experience with like being in a studio and working things like that. So I think doing that early,
That spark,
it
that
jumped
drive
me
for
into
you.
it. Yeah.
Was it a cool experience as a child to see a character on television that you had that connection with?
Yeah, I remember I was like, oh, that's me. Like the little girl, like the pig, this pig sister. That's me. I was modeled off of that. I think that was fun. Being connected to that type of medium was a big thing for me when I was little. Yeah.
What's your biggest goal moving forward in terms of generating art? What is your goal as a young artist?
I want to do things bigger. I tend to make things either like on a computer or if it's in real life, like small. So I want to go like, big. I want to make like a giant mural. Like even though I've done murals, like I want to do like something. I want to do something massive. Yeah. So I think just trying to get outside my comfort zone and not being afraid of like making an impact. I think that's my biggest goal. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for coming
Yeah,
today.
thank you for having
talking
me. This
with
was
us.
fun. Yeah.